Okay, ZBA, we are live. We are recording. Phone lines are opened. Go for it.
I'd like to welcome everyone to the Zoning Board of Appeals on July 23rd, 2024. We have 3 public hearings scheduled, none of which have been canceled. I'll read the first one into the record. The applicant is Kathleen Duffy Langan, size location 10,000 square feet, 1843 Montauk Highway in Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-131-1-1. Description is to construct a 550 square foot deck addition on a parcel of land within jurisdiction and setbacks to freshwater wetlands. Relief sought is a natural resource special permit pursuant to 255-420 of the East Hampton Town Code, and 1 variance is required for this application. 1 variance of 8.7 feet is required from 255-430 of the Town Code to construct the proposed decking 91.3 feet from freshwater wetlands where a 100-foot setback is required and any other relief necessary. The zoning district is a B residence AE flood zone, elevation 10, secret class type 2. Council, do we have an affidavit of service and posting?
We do have an affidavit of service and posting. I have the original here. Well, I have a photocopy here. I believe I saw a fully executed one that was notarized, so I'm comfortable moving forward, but I'm just going to state that the applicant is going to get me the assigned original. He's the affirming party, so we're good to move forward.
Okay, good. Member Mering, do you have a field inspection?
I do indeed, thank you. Good evening, everybody. You'll see here the first photo is the proper posting at the site. I think the board is probably somewhat familiar with this property, as probably several of you were on the board when the last decision was made. I was not a part of the board at the time. Next photo. I've now turned my back to where that posting is. It's right on 27, that road across 27 on the south, that is one of the main roads into what we know as the White Sands neighborhood. We've seen many applications there. Next slide. Okay, this is turned back to the house. The house is getting close to completing construction. Next slide. I just shot a little bit so you could see the house with the neighboring house to the east. Next slide. And then shot a little bit in the other direction to the property that appears to be vacant to the west of the property. Next slide. Okay, so now I'm going to start to go around the house. This is the corner on the southwest side, and the decking wraps around the front and the side of the house. You'll see that the property remains sandy and dune-ish like, and there's some disturbance there, but you'll see a little more that there's some dune vegetation that still remains. Next slide. This is just, again, that's the I would imagine that's the construction limiting fence on the west side of the property. Next slide. I just took a little shot close that there is, some wild flowers and some dune-ish like vegetation that has been surviving the construction on the boundaries of the property. Next slide. I'm looking over that project limiting fence just to show what the vegetation off the west side of the property looks like, and I'm looking towards the railroad tracks. I'm looking towards the north also from there. Next slide. Okay, so that's the existing decking, and now I'm around the back. That's the back facade of the house without the decking on it. And I guess, as I understand this application, there would be the proposed decking at the back of the house. I don't believe it attaches all the way to that decking. I think it's just the back facade of the house, but we're getting to the area here where the proposed additional 550 square feet of decking is. Next slide. Again, this is the back facade of the house. There you can see the proximity of the neighbor to the east. And the sandy dune land, it's cleared, and I guess the TAM said this is an area that there had been agreed that would remain cleared post the prior building permit and the board's permits. Next slide. Now, this is just a little shot so you can sort of see the distance between the project limiting fence and the rear facade of the house. I'm not able to say that the project limiting fence is in the place that exactly matches what's on the survey, but the decking would be proposed to be inside of where that fence is. Next slide. Also just took a shot over that project limiting fence towards the north of what the vegetation looks like between the property and as you get up to you can't see the railroad tracks, but they're out there. Next slide. More of the vegetation and the topography behind the house. Next slide. And then the last shot here is just I'm kind of coming around that's the eastern facade of the house and looking back towards 27. And I think that's it.
Thank you, Member Mering. Is there anyone here to represent this application?
Good evening.
Do you affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. Good evening, board members. Joel Halsey on behalf of Lighthouse Land Planning, representing the property owner Kathy Langen. Our office was not involved with the initial permit submission for this property, which consisted of a redevelopment of the existing of the property before, which contained a residence that was torn down and rebuilt with the new residence. The board granted that permit in 2021 to construct a new residence and install a sanitary system on the property. The current application seeks a variance to construct a portion of decking on the north side of the residence located 91.3 feet from the wetlands where a 100-foot setback is required. It's roughly about an 8.7% variant of the town code is what we're looking for. Excuse me. If you examine the survey, the area of the decking proposed that is within the required wetland setback is 262 square feet. It follows the arc of the flag along the north side of the residence. We depicted that on the survey for you to refer to. The balance of the proposed decking complies with the required setback. While the technical analysis memo correctly points out that the original application included no decking on this side of the residence, in fact, the approved application required no dimensional variances from the wetlands at all. This decking should have been included as part of the application in my estimation at the time. It just seems like that would be an ideal location for a deck on the back of the house where you're on 27 and you have, other than the railroad track, it's a very serene area. The wetlands in jurisdiction are located to the north of the residence and actually on the other side of the railroad tracks. I'm sure some of Member Mering has been there. I don't know if any other board members have been there. They know this Montauk area. The tracks themselves are constructed in an elevated location with fill. So these wetlands are geographically and hydraulically and topographically isolated from this property, the subject property that is before the board tonight. So we have no identifiable or conceivable detriment to the wetlands in question that we could figure out by reading the technical analysis memo or by our own view of the property. As stated, the application as proposed requires a minimal variance of 8.7 feet, of which 287 feet of the proposed decking is within the wetland setback. Other than that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the board have at this time.
Does the board have any
Sorry,
questions?
I'm losing my voice. I think it's the
I was just
medication.
curious, there was a door in the back in the photos.
Yes,
Was that
that door was on the original plans too.
on the original
Yes.
plans with nothing? No
But
steps?
nothing, that was, again, I wasn't part of the original application, and if I had been part of the original application, I would have questioned why there was no decking on the back of the house.
Just want to note for the record, I misspoke a little bit because the rear deck does attach.
I did
to
want
the
to,
side
yeah, I
deck.
did want
Sorry,
to address that too.
I just spaced on that, yeah.
Are we ready for the planning department comments?
Sure.
Tyler Borsak for the planning department.
Do you affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. I don't have much else to add. There are wetlands obviously within jurisdiction of this property to the north and the northeast. They're on the other side of the railroads right of way. It's worth noting that while the property is not in the Harbor Protection Overlay District, it is in close proximity to the tidal marsh wetlands around Napeague Meadow Road, which are a direct conduit to Napeague Harbor. The decking went over sufficiently. I'll note again, as was Member Meering noted, was that the area of the decking was already proposed to be cleared as part of the 2021 ZBA approval, so nothing is changing on that front.
No additional, okay.
The board could consider additional mitigation on the property in order to help reduce clearing potentially if they feel that additional mitigation is needed and help return some of that dune land characteristics to the property. But other than that, the board just needs to weigh the applicant's needs against the NRSP and variance standards and the past approvals on the parcel in order to determine if they feel that it meets the standards. Other than that, I can answer any questions you might have.
In the past approval, I was part of that, but remind me, but we had an active discussion about the wetlands being on the other side of the railroad track at that point. What were we approving then? Were we giving them a variance for the septic system?
I believe so.
Yeah, it was the septic, right? Because the house was out of jurisdiction.
Correct. Yeah.
But now it's going to, now we can see from your
Right.
yeah.
The need for the decking puts it slightly into setbacks now.
So that area is already disturbed and was planned to be disturbed. We are requiring them to return the entire perimeter back to dunescape.
I don't believe that the ZBA approval required them to revegetate anything beyond what the clearing line is, and they've maintained that clearing line.
So they can maintain clearing up into the
Correct.
project limiting fence?
Right.
But are they prohibited in the last determination from establishing any vegetation that wouldn't be dune appropriate or native?
Let's see, I should have the determination.
I don't-
can tell you the conditions.
He's trying to see if we specify.
It's in the existing conditions memo, so you can refer to it if you need to, but there's no significant conditions.
And right, and so like if I'm looking at the rear construction fence line of edge of clearing, that vegetation behind it, there was no easement or any protection put on
Nothing
it
like
at the time.
that, no. Just that they wouldn't be able to clear because it's within, it would be within natural resource special permit jurisdiction, but other than that, there's no protections over the vegetation as it stands.
So the planning department at that time was comfortable with allowing them to have use of the property up into the project limiting fence?
Correct.
Okay, so there's no reason for us to doubt that that line is something that they can continue to have access?
Right. There's nothing preventing them from doing that. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have comments for the planning department?
I'm just trying to find why we specifically said we didn't want a deck back there.
And I know Joel, Mr. Halsey said he wasn't involved in the last application and he said he would have advised his clients to include it. Do you have a recollection why it was not part of the
I don't
application?
remember even discussing any decking at the back of the house.
Thank you.
I just think it wasn't something they presented.
My clear memory, and that's why I brought about the septic, was that we mostly were concerned whether or not the septic would have an effect at that distance and whether the railroad track helped to mitigate the connection between the two. I don't remember any discussion about a deck to the rear.
No, the house design itself seemed reasonable. I don't think anybody really looked at it that closely at that time because it seemed like a good design.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
I don't
are
know.
we good?
Public?
Yeah,
Sorry?
no, it just says in this disposition of the application, one statement that denied a variance because it was exceeding GFA floor area. Maybe that was a factor in denial. I don't know.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Tyler. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak to this application? Matt, do we have any callers?
You have 0 callers. Thank you.
Thank you. Joel, would you like to make some final comments? Member Marion, could you please?
Yes, I will. Thank you. I'd like to, in the matter of Kathleen Duffy Langen, 1843 Montauk Highway, I'm against it, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-131-01-01. I make a motion to close the record and close the public hearing.
I concur.
I concur.
Night,
Good night.
Joel.
Okay. Next one is mine, so I have to get it set up. All right. Okay. Okay, the next application is Meraki Sonder LLC. Size location is 41,749 square feet, 11 Wood Hollow Drive, Treescape at East Hampton, Section 2, Lot 24, map number 6244, tax map number 300-92-10-11. Description is to allow an existing 1,600 square foot pool deck, 739 square foot swimming pool, pool equipment and accessory structure to remain within front, side, and rear yard lot line setbacks. Relief sought is 5 variances are required for this application. Variance of 4.5 feet and 11.1 feet from 255-1110 of the town code are required to allow the existing pool to remain 25.5 feet and pool decking to remain 18.9 feet from the northern rear yard lot line respectively, where 30-foot setbacks are required. Variances of 6.6 feet and 12.3 feet from 255-1110 of the town code are required to allow the existing pool equipment to remain 23.4 feet and pool deck to remain 17.7 feet from the eastern side yard lot line, respectively, where 30-foot setbacks are required. One variance of 6.3 feet from 255-1110 of the town code is required to allow the existing accessory structure to remain 43.7 feet from the front yard lot line, where a 50-foot setback is required and any other relief necessary. Zoning district is an A residence zone, X flood zone, secret class is type 2. This is Chairman Delene's property, but in his absence, I offered to do the field inspection for him. Okay. As you can see, the property was properly posted.
I was
Oh, I'm
just
sorry.
going to interject.
The
Yes,
affidavit of service.
I do have an affidavit of service and posting. Everything appears to be in order and the board has jurisdiction.
Thank you, Jameson. The property, as you can see, was properly posted. Next, please. This is a picture of the house I took from the driveway walking up. It's very high. It's elevated as you walk up. It's the elevation of the house is very high. Next, please. This is the entrance to the pool. The steps you see there are, you go up there, there's a gate, and that's where you enter the pool and deck area. Next, please. This is the, there's a shed that, this is at the, on the east side of the property. And it's right before, it's again to the east of the deck and pool and the steps that you recently saw. Next, please. This is just a deck area. This is on the pool deck. It's just a picture I took to give you an idea of what exists. It's a very extensive pool deck area. Next, please. Okay, this was taken from the west side. Oh, no, I'm sorry. This was taken from the east side. And this is the pool before us tonight. Next, please. And the decking. This is to give you a good, I tried to, as much as possible, give you a good shot of the existing pool deck. Next, please. This is the pool equipment. Next, please. This is just vegetation on the property, really not in our jurisdiction, but a lot of it is bamboo. Next, please. This is construction that I went to the rear of the property just to give you a sense of the property. There is, as you can see, construction going on, and there was a building permit properly displayed in the front of the house. Next, please. Just another example of what's being constructed as we speak. Next, please. That's just a picture. I wanted on record that it is, does have the issuance of a building permit. Next, please. This is the driveway, and just a pile of wood debris. Next, please. This is the structure before us tonight. It first, I believe, was constructed after the 2006 CO, but this structure is actually before us this evening. Next, please. Just another, it's off the driveway, another shot of the accessory structure
Is
before
that the one
us.
coming down the driveway?
That's the one, yes. 'Cause I'm actually standing in the driveway, going down. This would be right here. This one right here on the survey. Next, please. And this is just a shot of the driveway, showing you how high the property goes as you walk up towards the house. Next, please. That might be it, I think. Thank you, Tyler. Is there someone here representing this application?
Good evening, Acting Chair and members of the board. Attorney Chris Carrillo on behalf of Meraki Sonder LLC. Also with me tonight is homeowner Jeffrey Swart and the architect for the project that you witnessed some of the construction on, Daniel Koplowitz. So as you saw, we're looking at 11 Wood Hollow Court. 0.95 acre parcel, as you could tell, very well vegetated parcel. Approximately 57% of this property is natural vegetation. And the existing lot coverage, you'll note, is 2,086 square feet here. It's about 5% of the overall lot. And 15%, or 6,262, is the available lot coverage. So while we're looking for a few variances tonight as far as the lot lines for this pool and pool decking, just wanted to state for the record that they're only utilizing approximately 1/3 of their allowable coverage and not looking to expand on that coverage any more than what's already there. As you mentioned, Denise, seeking 5 variances in total for the existing 740 square foot pool, 1,600 square foot deck, and the pool equipment to remain in that current location where the setbacks are not met, as well as the 407 foot roofed lean-to type accessory structure, which you saw in the front yard, typically housing your maintenance, landscaping supplies, and garbage bins. I just want to add that none of these requests would consider substantial, given these are as-built improvements. They're largely in line with, and as I'll come explain in a little bit, sort of just barely outside of the confines of the 2006 CO, as well as a 1985 CO for some pool and pool decking as well. So the most complicated part of this application isn't exactly the requests themselves, but really understanding the history of this property, kind of peeling back the onion and unraveling what the heck happened here, so that we ended up with a pool and a pool deck that had changed its way by a few feet here or there since 1985. So I want to give you a quick brief history, even though Tyler did a nice job in his technical analysis memo, just a brief history of the permitting and how we got to where we are today. So in 1978, we had a CO for the residents, and then in 1985, we had a CO'd pool and pool deck, which is largely in its current location. In 1999, there was a ZBA approval for an additional pool decking. So they added to that pool decking that was there since 1985, and that was CO'd also in 99. So in 1999, we had a CO for additional pool decking and a hot tub, which was outside of the jurisdiction of this board. Then in 2006, we had sort of a comprehensive updated certificate of occupancy for various home additions, including a pool, decking, hot tub, shed, and a bunch of improvements to the primary structure. That was sort of the last big comprehensive certificate of occupancy on the property. This is where it starts to get tricky. In 2008 and 2009, there were multiple permits granted for work to the property, to the pool, to the decking, to the primary structure, work that was never started. And that's where it got a little confusing. I met with Joe Palermo in June of last year. We put the surveys on the big board. We went through it all, and we determined that none of the work from the 2008 and 2009 permits was ever started. But in 2015, you'll see on the property card, there was a stop work order. What happened? The current owner started to build a garage, irrespective of any of those previous permits that had nothing to do with previous permits. So you had the beginning of a garage, open permits that had nothing to do with it. Joe and I worked together, as well as Daniel Koplowitz here, the architect, who developed a comprehensive plan to explain what was going on in the property. Ultimately, we were able to close out a bunch of those permits where no work had ever been done. So where does it really get questionable? 2015 to 2021. That homeowner decided at that point to do additional renovations to the pool to the deck, to the pool equipment, and the primary structure without the benefit of any permitting. So irrespective of anything that I was talking about between 2015 and 2021, Tyler recognized it as well. There was just a bunch of work done on the house. And that's why Daniel was able to come in. He looked at the integrity issues of the structure, realized that there was a number of issues that were concerns to the safety of the building. And the reason why there's currently an open permit and construction ongoing is Daniel was able to present to Joe Palermo in the building department an emergency application for a permit to correct these structural integrity issues, and that's what's going on right now. So those are not additions, those are not extensions or renovations, those are strictly emergency to, again, there were some large rafters that were moved and things like that. So that's sort of the history of how we got here today. And then my client purchased this property in 2021. During the height of sort of the real estate COVID boom, without the benefit of a certificate of occupancy updated at that time, although we did have local counsel. I think there's a lot of pressure on a lot of buyers back then to accept it as is, and so he did. And then in 2022, he went ahead and put in his rental registry application. What happened, it got bounced back because there was open permits, and we wanted to close those permits out. But when we got the new survey to do so, we noticed, wait a second, this pool looks off by a few feet, the pool deck looks off by a few feet, and we began to peel back the layers and recognize that we needed to come in front of this board for these particular variances. Again, to be clear, none of the primary structure renovations or emergency applications are within the purview of this board tonight. We're specifically looking at the pool and the deck. But I thought it was important that you guys sort of got the full picture here, especially with my client here and the architect. We're really here on our own volition, voluntarily, innocent actor, just trying to get a wholesale legalization of this property. So let's get into the variances a little bit. Tyler in his technical analysis memo did do a nice job and put together the little graph, which was very helpful. So just to provide a little bit more color on Tyler's graph, which you'll see on page 2 or 3 of his analysis memo, just want to add a little bit to that. So we'll start first with the pool deck at the northerly property line. And the 2006 certificate of occupancy had that pool deck at 12.5 feet from the property line. The current application before you and where the deck sits now is 18.9 feet from the northerly property line. So what we're saying is the application now from the 2006 CO, that particular deck is actually 6.4 feet further away from the property line than was originally CO'd in 2006. So while we're asking for a variance of, I think, 11.1 feet, for that deck, it's actually 6.4 feet further away than where it was when it was previously CO'd in 2006. Now, as to the east property line and the deck setbacks to the east, the 2006 CO was 20.1 feet from the eastern property line for the pool deck we're talking about. It's now 17.7 feet. So where it stands now, the pool deck on the easterly property line is about 2.4 feet. Couple feet closer to the property line. The way I'm offsetting that in my mind is, however you look at the pool itself, on the easterly property line, it originally, on the 2006 CO, was 27.3 feet from the property line, which was within your jurisdiction. It has now been brought out of the ZBA jurisdiction. So when this the current homeowner went ahead and redid this pool, he actually brought it out of your jurisdiction as to the pool from the eastern property line. So again, no longer in your jurisdiction. As for the pool equipment, in 2006, the pool equipment was CO'd at approximately 26 feet from the property line. It's now 23.4 feet. So again, a nominal 2.6 feet closer to the property line for the pool equipment. Lastly, we have the lean-to accessory structure, which you saw the images of. It is 43.7 feet. This was all done between 2015 and 21 after these previous permits and ZBA approvals. And again, it is 43.7 feet from the front to the property, and we are seeking a 6.3 foot variance there. As you see, it's a nicely done structure. Wide open, no walls, no doors. It's really just a lean-to, not too visible from the front or from the road. And to move it, I think would be a little bit of an issue, just because it is well built in its current location, and we're only looking for about a 6.3 foot variance. That's about my height. So just moving on quickly to the variance standards, section 255-850. This application, there's a great benefit to my clients here to leave the pool deck equipment and this lean-to structure in their current location. He didn't put them up. He's an innocent actor that inherited these things. We're here before you humbly trying to legalize them. And I think granting this variance greatly outweighs any detriment to any health safety of this neighborhood. We're really talking about 2, 3, 4, and 6 feet here or there for this application. Will the project detriment nearby properties? The only nearby home is the property directly to the east, and the pool and the pool deck are still 60 to 70 feet from any improvements on their home. As you saw, there's bamboo, plenty of vegetation. So as far as the purpose of keeping pools and decks and recreation areas away from neighbors, we're still 60, 70 feet away from them with large properties, vegetated properties. And I think that's a really a minimal question of risk there as far as the detriment to the neighborhood properties. The second one, or section C, undetectable from neighborhood properties. And is it substantial? You can only really characterize this as insubstantial. Although we're asking for 5 different variances, they're between 2.4 and 6.7 feet. And again, it's really just to legalize what's there. The impact on the environment is negligible, and I think ultimately my client did not bring these upon himself. And also, he is here today. He'd be happy to chat with you guys and explain sort of how it's all integrated, how it all fits. I think you saw, Denise, that it really is nicely done, built into the topography in the house itself. So moving any of these structures would be a little bit of a challenge and might cause more harm to the environment than good. And that's where we're at as far as the variance standards. So all in all, we humbly request that you grant these variances for us today. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Okay.
Does the board have any questions?
Garage along the way. Does that factor into it? Was there a garage? What do you?
There was no garage. At some point, the building department issued a stop work order for the construction of a garage without the benefit of a permit. That stop work order was rescinded, and although we can't catch up to it from any aerial imagery, there's no evidence of any garage ever existing. So when that current owner had begun to build the garage illegally, he must have taken it down completely because there's no garage on the property.
There's no garage.
Okay.
I have a question about clearing, if I may ask. So I know you said it's a well-vegetated property. I'm looking at the survey and I see existing limits of clearing, and it looks like there's a lot of vegetation. But when I look at the clearing calculation on the survey, it says that existing limits of clearing is 18,651, which is not that far from the maximum clearing. So it's funny, when I look at the numbers on the survey, it makes it feel like it's, assertively cleared, but I'm just trying to reconcile what you characterized as a very well-vegetated property versus what the...
Yeah, I just thought...
And I know the lot is much bigger. The lot is, 41,700?
Yeah, that's kind of what it was,
yeah.
Julie, was that you have almost an acre property, so I characterize it as 53% vegetated. So you have almost a half acre of property there that is naturally vegetated.
Yeah.
But I do understand what you're saying. You're allowed to have, you're permitted 23,437.
20,437, yeah.
And the existing is 18,651. So, yeah, there is some clearings definitely in the back where the structures are specifically, but ultimately, you're looking at almost 2,000 square feet under the current clearing limits with, again, we have a very environmentally conscious architect and homeowner, and there's absolutely no interest in doing any additional clearing on this property.
Thank you.
Chris, I just want to make it clear that none of the work that's in front of us tonight for approval was done by the current owner. These decks were done by others.
That's correct. The previous owner, by the name of Stéphane Dupois, a Frenchman who has since moved on back to France. And if you need any more questions about it, I believe Daniel was able to actually get a hold of him and say, hey, what the heck did you do here? As he started to deconstruct this and figure out where the structural integrity issues were. But yeah, all of this work between 2015 and 2021 was done by Stéphane Dupois. And none of this was done by my client, who simply submitted for a rental registry permit and realized the can of worms that he had opened up.
Yeah, and the work that's currently being done under an issued permit, you have a building permit now for all this
That's
work.
correct.
And that is not changing any of the footprint or the configuration. You're just doing a what? You're doing a repair
There are
of...
emergency repairs to remedy existing structural defects that were a safety hazard. And, do you want to talk a little bit about it, or if you'd like to hear more about it, he can explain. But
Yeah, I just want to make it clear that what we were looking at, when the photo came up, it looked like it was substantial additions going on. But as it turns out, if that's...
I understand it to be The applicant seems to be wanting to bring the property into compliance
Right.
because of violations that occurred before he owned the property.
That's correct, Denise.
Okay.
That is correct. There's no violations since 2021 when Jeff bought the property.
Okay, can we hear from the
I don't-
planning department
Yeah,
before?
yeah.
Okay,
I don't have to ask any questions of
Yeah,
him. I
no,
just
I
wanted
mean,
to
he can-
establish that what we were looking at is strictly a repair, that's all. And you're saying that it is.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, and I'm sure that it was already mentioned by the vice chair that, it was within the building permit, but that's okay. I thought that the photo made it look like it was more significant than that. And I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page when we're trying to come to a decision here. Thanks.
Certainly. No expansion on the footprint, emergency
Right,
repairs,
exactly.
and that's really it. And also, that is obviously not within the purview of this application.
Thank you. You'll have your opportunity to speak. I just want to hear from the planning
Can we
department
just
first.
confirm the survey date? It is February 6, 2023?
I believe that's correct. That's the most recent survey that I have.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, February
We'll
6th,
move on
23.
to the planning department.
Yep.
Borsak for the planning department again. I don't feel there's a need to go through the history of the property again. It was, Chris went over it really, really well. It's also in the technical analysis memo. And just to note that the existing conditions memo has all the documents that are noted. It has the building permits, or it has the COs, it has the aerial images, and it has the ZBA permits. So you can sort of go through that if you need to see the history of the property, because it is important in this application, I think. The history of the swimming pool and the decking especially could be utilized to differentiate this application from similar requests, given the existing nonconformities that have existed for a number of years on the property and received ZBA approvals in the past. The board should discuss the requested variances and if they are the minimum necessary or if there are ways to reduce requested variances while still granting the benefit of additional decking. There is additional space on the property if the board felt that structures need to be relocated. And other than that, really, I can answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Anybody have questions for the planning
When you
department?
say something about relocating that, are we put ourselves in a position where if we ask to have a building relocated, are we going to damage some other portion of the property so that we're looking at, a plus and minus? Is there a net gain for us to have the building moved at all?
Right, or even like something like the pool equipment, if the board felt that they wanted the pool equipment moved,
Yeah.
there is space to move it if they felt that that was a necessary step.
Looks very well vegetated now, so anywhere we went, we'd be doing some sort of other disturbance.
Certainly, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to address this application? I'll have to swear you in, sir. Do you affirm to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Just state your name for the record.
Daniel Koplowitz. I was enlisted for this project as a preservation architect to sort of document the existing house and understand the morphological growth of the additions and transformations that took place without permitting.
Could you bring the mic a little closer?
to the
Thank
mic?
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And so I usually do this for historic structures and house museums, but in this capacity, I had to put on my X-ray vision, and I grew up in France, so I spoke French, and I reached out to Stéphane Dupois and to massage his ego, and he told me, there were no drawings and no photographs, and and he whatever. But nonetheless, what's interesting is that aesthetically, from a visual standpoint, it looks great what he did, but under the surface, he took out a column. He took out a bearing wall that made 2x8 roof structures that were spanning 12 feet now, spanning 16 feet. And then we took out on the ceiling, they drilled 4-inch holes for drainage pipes for the roof deck. So it was only 2.5 inches of structure holding up the roof for a 16-foot span. It was just unbelievable. And the balconies, they waterproof them, and they were all tilting back towards the bottom plates of the second floor, and they were rotting out, and it was a complete disaster. And the owner is committed to we're basically remedying all these structural defects to make the structure sound. I enlisted a structural engineer as well to prepare the beam sizings and so forth. And what's interesting is that this house would have been torn down if Stefan didn't do these somewhat aesthetic additions and changes to the house. So and the owners is committed to, we've upgraded the heating system and air conditioning system with a heat pump and making it more energy efficient. And they're in the process. So we've done a lot of cosmetic and now structural repairs that's going to extend the life cycle of this house for a good time, which I think is very good. Because I'm not for tear downs. I have never done a tear down in my career, and I think this house has, given the amount of money being spent to stabilize it, and is commendable. And I think that the pool deck, which is interesting to note, is that they eliminated a bedroom on the second floor. This is all, of course, without permits, but they made a legal bedroom downstairs without filing it. And it will be, I did file as-built, by the way, in conjunction with this application for the structural repairs. So they had to make they had a little light well originally in the basement, and they made that area way wider, which made the pool deck against the house much narrower. So that's why they needed to widen it on the other side of the pool.
Mm-hmm.
But they also raised the pool a little bit, so there was a lot to make it closer to the first floor level as you come out of the house. So that said, the deck for the most part is sort of on-grade deck condition, and we were finding as we put in the new columns to support the second floor, that we found that the bottom deck was built over the 1978 deck and was rotted, and they're finding more horrible sort of a hack job that we're uncovering and addressing in the process of extending the life cycle of this house.
So can I just follow up on that? So when you did this, kind of full inspection of the structural integrity of the house, I just want to understand, did you do a similar analysis of the pool and the deck? Because a lot of that work seemed to have been done without permits and without perhaps building department inspection. So I just want to get at the idea that if there were to be structural issues that you might have to change with the pool or the decking, that you know them now.
The decking around the pool is much newer than the decking that was that was up against the house that they that was pre-existing, because that part was always there. But they just changed. What they did is they changed the boards, and they didn't put gaps between the boards, so there was no air, there was no filtration, so it rotted out the wood, because he wasn't using competent workmen to do the work. And now we're redoing it. We're reconstructing the lower deck in addition to the upper deck, because it had brought it out.
But you're not reconstructing the things, or you are reconstructing the things that are before us for variances? The things that are before you with regard to the pool deck that's around the pool. This is not the pool. This is not the decking around the pool. This is the old decking that was against the house or on the second floor. But that said, it's I think that the practice of extending the lifestyle of existing older homes is unfortunately all too rare in the Hamptons. More often, tear downs produce much larger homes, so that the renovations and alterations that were performed have in fact led to a fortuitous favorable aesthetic result, as well as resulting in a much lower carbon footprint. A tear down would have gone into a landfill, and probably with a 8,000 square foot house of glass.
Have you thought about, or how's the septic system in this house with all that?
Well, the septic system is rated for the number of bedrooms they have. They were not increased. I don't know whether they've had the septic system inspected, but it is functioning.
Maybe Tyler can tell us what the status of the septic is.
Installed in 1978 when the house was first constructed.
Yeah. The soil conditions are good. Anything else? Any other questions?
Anything else, Board?
Just only because it's within the front yard setback jurisdiction. What is that roofed structure? I'm just curious what it's used for.
It's the portion that's closest to the gate is where the garbage bins are.
Oh,
And
it's just like a,
It's really
the structure is
storage.
open on all four sides, so it's really it's not a lean-to. It's a shed.
yeah,
It would be up against the house, but and the other portion are garden tools and things like that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak to this application? Matt, do we have any callers?
You have 0 callers. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris, would you like to make some final comments?
All set, thank you.
Okay, I think we're ready to close.
May I ask Tyler about the current status
Tyler,
of the
can you
septic?
please address
Just
Member
for my
Merritt's question?
information, I don't know that we have a nexus here, but I just
What was
wanted
the
to.
question?
The septic that is in the ground now, is it original to the house? Do we know? There's no,
Yeah, there's not really much of a nexus to
No, I
just
was
wanted to-
going to say that.
system, so I didn't even look at it. Yeah.
just wanted
It's
to know.
not really in
I
keeping
know.
with this application.
Just wanted to know.
Can't hurt to coverage it.
But there's no nexus to looking into that. Do we have any other comments? In the matter of the application of Araki, am I saying that right? Thank you. Sonder LLC, I make a motion that we close the public hearing and record.
Second it.
Concur.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Next public hearing is, the applicant is Sean Trudeau and Julia Stark Trudeau. Size location, 8,774 square feet, 19 Merrill's Road, Lazy Point, part of Lot 15, map number 12, Amagansett, tax map number 300-106-2-48. Description is to remove an existing shed, decking, bluestone gravel, and walkways, and to construct an approximately 616 square foot second-story addition, 45 square foot roof overhang, 473 square foot deck and porch within side and rear yard lot line setbacks outside of the town's pyramid regulations, and beyond the maximum allowable lot coverage, and to upgrade to an IA sanitary system. Relief sought, 8 variances are required for this application. Variances of 2.75 feet and 3.25 feet are required from 255-1110 of the town code to construct a proposed porch 5.125 feet from the northern side yard lot line and decking 4.625 feet from the southern side yard lot line, respectively, where 7.875 feet setbacks are required. One variance of 8.35 feet is required from 255-11 of the town code to construct the proposed porch and decking with stairs 6.65 feet from the rear yard, eastern rear yard lot line, where a 15-foot setback is required. 4 variances, 5.5, 5.6, 6.7, and 7.65 are required from 255-11 72D of the town code to construct the proposed additions 5.5 feet outside of the pyramid regulations along the northern lot line and 5.6 feet along the southern lot line, and proposed porch 6.7 feet outside of the pyramid regulations along the northern lot line and 7.65 feet along the eastern lot line, respectively. One variance of 240 square feet is required from 255-1110 of the town code to allow the property to have lot coverage of 1,995 square feet, where 1,755 square feet is the maximum allowable, and any other relief necessary. Zoning district is A2 residence zone, X flood zone, secret class type 2. Council, do we have an affidavit of service and posting? Is it in order?
We do, yes. I've reviewed the affidavit of service and posting. Everything appears to be in order and the board has jurisdiction.
Member Mehring, are you ready for your
I
field
am
inspection?
ready. 2 in 1 night, all over Amagansett. Okay, thank you, Tyler. So this is the posting in the, next to the road. Next slide. I step back a little bit from the posting. I'm standing in Merrill's Road. I'm looking, and we'll be zooming in on this, but the house at the end of that long driveway in the middle is the house in question. And then you can see to the right, there's another, you can see how close the other two houses are to this current house. You can see the house on the right is tall and elevated, and we'll see it more closely as you get to it. But the house on the left, which is the north side of the property, is also, it's a one-story, but it's elevated. And there is topography that impacts this lot and the other lots. So this lot is a little more sunken in a way in between some higher topography. Okay, next slide. I've just taken some shots with my back to the house. This is Merrill's Road. That is looking south, I believe. It's mostly a dirt road and quite vegetated. And then next slide. This is Merrill's Road looking in the other direction to the north and towards the main water body. You can see also, so it's a dirt road, and you can see right there in the foreground, the driveway is asphalt, and the asphalt spills from the driveway out into this part of the road. I just wanted to note that. Next slide. And this is some of what the property looks like across the road on the other side of Merrill's. It's highly vegetated. Pines are in great condition. A lot of natural vegetation. Next slide. More of the same. That's what's going on around the house. Next slide. Okay, sorry, this was a duplicate. That also shows where the asphalt is from the driveway into the road. Okay, so now I'm going to go back. I'm going to start to walk up that driveway and get to the house and deal with the areas that are in play in this application. Next slide. So this is actually the house to the north that I said was elevated. I just wanted to get a closer look at it. There's this 3-bay garage in the front, and then the house is towards the back. Next slide. And it's interesting, the house sort of presents from the front as a 3-story house, and you'll get a lot of perspective as you look at the house in question about how this house relates to, the applicant's property. Next slide. Okay, so now I'm walking up the driveway, even though we showed, Merrill's Road and property around it is very vegetated and wooded. The whole sort of front of the property is pretty much heavily disturbed. There's some lawn and there's some natives and not natives, but that's just the condition there. Next slide. Okay, so now I've gone close to the house. This is the garage area. You can see it on the front. Front part of the house. This structure is where the proposed 2nd-story addition will go. Next slide. And now I've just shifted a little bit to the north. You can see how tight this property is to that property. Again, the topography shifts up. I think there's actually a retaining wall on that property. And you can see there's like a little passage between the wooden retaining thing there. And I'm going to go through that little passageway, and I'm going to start to head to the back of the house. Next slide. Okay, that's that passageway. And so in the rear where those sliding glass doors are, that's the main part of the house. Next slide. So to the right of this photo is the edge of the house in question. The white structure there is the property next door to the north. There's this wood structure there. I'm going to go up those couple little steps that lead to the back of the house. Next slide. more of the same. That's the northern facade of the house, and you still can see the property there to the left. I'm going to go towards, after those next two steps, there's a little gate to the backyard. Keep going, next slide. And yes, so there I am at the gate, and even though it's not a tall gate, the latch was stuck, and I didn't want to hop it, so I took photos of the backyard from a little bit from the neighbor's property. So next slide. Okay, so on the north side of the backyard of the house in question, I'm actually probably on the neighbor's property. There's a stockade fence there. The photos from here are gonna be my looking over that fence into the backyard of this property. Next slide. Okay, so there you are. This is the existing deck on the back of the house that will be demolished, and this is the area that you'll start to see where the new deck is proposed. Next slide. And now I'm going a little further away. I'm going to the east, and the property on the back slopes down as well. You don't see it that great in the photos, but it's disturbed in the back. I guess there was lawn there. It's not necessarily, irrigated or fertilized, but next slide. And again, so that's still a stockade fence on the north side of the house, and then the open fencing is the rear of the property. I'm assuming that's probably the property line, and then I'm going to show you what that property looks like off beyond this, and you can see it's still sloping down. Next slide. Okay, so from that fence now I'm looking up at the house. That is the rear facade of the house with the existing decking. Next slide. And this is what the property looks like beyond the boundaries of the house. This, I believe, is trustee. As you're looking away, that's trustee land. Next slide. More of the same. Next slide. There actually becomes an access road back to Shore Road, or not an access road, it's like a driveway or something like that. And you can see Shore Road in the distance. And again, I believe this is trustee land. Next slide. More of the same, that is Shore Road back there. Next slide. Okay, so now I've turned back towards the house. You can see my back is to Shore Road. Now you can see the house in the distance. Next slide. This is the property line with the house that is to the south. I don't know this fencing, if it's on this property or the neighbor's property. There's a line of like Leland cypresses there. Next slide. And you can see, and then I'm back towards the front of I'm on the side of the garage, and it's tight to the property line of cryptomeria there. Again, I don't know whose property those trees are on. Next slide. Yeah, again, sort of the distance between the side of the house and, sort of getting to where the addition will be. Next slide. That's it. Thank you.
Is there someone here to speak on behalf of the application?
Good evening, Madam Vice Chair, members of the board. David Kirst from Matthews, Kirst, Cooley, and Choron, PLLC, 241 Panago Road, East Hampton. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Sean and Julia Trudeau. Let's see. First, I'd like to start with pointing out we do have letters in the file from both neighboring parcels to the north and to the south in support of the application. While there are multiple variances, they are relatively minor. I wouldn't call any of them substantial. Even collectively, I wouldn't believe that they would be classified as substantial. If you see along the northern property line, it's shown on that survey, there's existing concrete walkways. The proposed decking is no closer to that northern property line than the existing residence. Same for the southern property line. Nothing's closer to either of those lines than the existing residence. And as you saw in the photos that Ms. Marion took, there is a line of arborvitae or some sort of evergreen, I'm not a botanist, along that line between us and the neighbor to the south. And as shown in the photos, that house is significantly higher than our client's residence. And even with the proposed pyramid variances that are being requested, our roof line will be no higher than the existing roof line of our structure. So when you see the, Tyler, if you could possibly bring that up. No, the photo of the front of our house and the front of the neighbor to the south.
Oh, in my field report? You're looking,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
Yes. Yes. But the ridge line there is going to be no taller than what you're already seeing. And again, it will be over the footprint of the existing garage to add a bedroom to this structure to make this a more livable, enjoyable house for our client and their family. There is a small overhang on the south elevation for, you can't really see it very well. You can see it on the survey. It's over an existing concrete walkway. Right here.
Where it says proposed overhang, that's where, okay.
Yes, that's just a roof overhang, and because it's over 2 feet, it counts towards coverage. Otherwise, generally, overhangs would be exempt from that. The rear deck is proposed again at 10 feet where the existing rear deck is 10 feet. I know the variance is for a few feet more than that for the stairs that come down off of the deck. But the body of the deck itself is at 10 feet, which matches what the existing deck is already at on the property. And that property to the east is trustee property. There's no residences there. I wouldn't believe there probably ever will be at this point. We are proposing a IA sanitary system as part of this renovation. As has been noted, the lot width here is the impediment. It's only 49 feet wide. The existing structure has been located where it has since before zoning. So any sort of additions to that are already going to be dictated by the existing structure, which lends to rebuilding the deck on the rear of the property, expanding that a little bit, as well as to add the addition over top of the existing garage. There really isn't any viable alternatives on the property to achieve the benefit that our clients are looking for from these additions.
And David, this will have how many bedrooms now?
By my count, 3.
So this new, the addition is for a new master bedroom.
Correct.
So you're
it's
saying
just
there'll be-
one room. Yep.
There'll be 2 other bedrooms.
Yeah. Hold on. Let me just double check.
Here's the CO.
What does it say, 3?
Looks like the existing house is 2 bedrooms.
Oh, okay. No.
Right. They're not labeled bedrooms on my survey, on my plans, but that's the way it looks to me, is that there's 2 existing bedrooms.
Yes, and a new master bedroom.
Yes. The area in the basement is a playroom. There's no bedrooms down there.
Thank you.
And since we're interrupting you, I'm sorry.
Go right ahead.
But the existing garage that the addition is going over, can you remind us, is it going to stay a garage, or has it been already converted or will be converted to living space?
I believe that is still a garage, and I believe it's remaining garage, but let me...
I think I read it in a TAM somewhere, but I just don't remember off the top of my head.
Yes, that's remaining garage.
Are there any other questions?
I'm looking, I think I have the most updated survey, September 6, 2023.
No,
No, oh, that's why, because there's no
July
septic on it.
11th, 2024.
Oh, I pulled the wrong one out of the,
It was just, yeah, it was recently submitted.
oh, not in my
Yes.
package. So the septic is on that survey?
Correct, and there was also a
me,
separate
I'm
septic
sorry.
plan
Yeah, I saw the
by
septic
TF
plan.
Engineering that
Right.
was submitted. The property is becoming more compliant with total coverage. Currently, and was on the prior C of O. Where's the number I have? The coverage then was 4,620 total. We're reducing that by 713 square feet by removing that bluestone that's in the rear of the property. So there is a benefit to that, and the requested building coverage variances is minor, is for structures that are over existing hard structures, existing disturbed areas currently. Like I said, the roof overhangs over existing concrete walkway, and the proposed covered deck is currently a deck. I believe Tyler had mentioned a shed being removed. I believe that is gone already. And I have the 2018 survey here. Hold on one second. Yes, the 2018 survey from the building that was with the building department file. There was a shed on there that was removed. I know this is in Tyler's existing conditions memo, but on this you can see the total lot coverage that's over. So let me just pass that out for everybody again.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Thank you. Oop, thanks. Sorry, Dave, if I may, David, can you just go back again on this 240 square foot variance from lot coverage and tell us again? I just want to make sure I'm clear on what you said, the basis for that ask and what it's coming from. Is it partly or in large part that overhang?
The overhang itself, I believe, is 45 square feet of that. But the other part of it is the rear deck, the covered deck, which, again, if you look at the most recent survey, most of that area that's being covered is already, by that covered deck, is already decking. And it brings it out square to the house, which, again, is no closer to the property lines than the existing residence.
Tyler, could you pull up the elevation, the front elevation of the addition? Would you mind? Thank you. Just wanted to look at that again.
All right, do we have are we ready to hear from the planning department? Mr. Kirst, are you finished with your presentation?
Yes, I didn't know if there were more questions for me. That's why I
just want to hear the
I'd
planning,
like to hear from the planning
first.
department at this point.
Tyler Borsak for the Planning Department again. So the subject property is situated on the east side of Merrill's Road in Amagansett. The property is currently before the ZBA seeking approvals in order to construct a 616 square foot second story addition over the existing attached garage, along with a roof overhang, new decking and porch, and an upgraded sanitary system. The application requires several side yard, rear yard, pyramid, and lot coverage variances. The subject property is located in the Lazy Point area of town, which is an environmentally sensitive area, but the parcel itself has no protected features. The proposed project represents a moderate amount of construction on a constrained property. The parcel being only 8,774 square feet in lot area is very non-conforming to lot size and lot width. The non-conforming approximately 21-foot lot width provides the parcel the benefit of the 4/10 rule, which allows for a side yard lot line setback of 7.875 feet for structures. The building plans depict a proposed 616 square foot addition to the second story of the residence over the existing garage. The plans also propose removing an existing deck at the rear of the residence and constructing a new deck and porch. Given that the requested variances are dimensional variances and mainly those that impact neighboring properties to the north, south, and east, the board should be sure that the impacts are minimized to the greatest extent practical, and that the minimum variance necessary in order to adequately alleviate the difficulty caused the applicant to request the variances. There's certainly adequate room on the property for additional outdoor space, so any variances for decking should be closely looked at to ensure that they meet the variance standards. The board will also want to closely look at the proposed pyramid nonconformities. The existing residence is pre-existing nonconforming to pyramid regulations, with pyramid violations of 7 feet and 8 feet or more along the northern and southern property lines for the existing residence. The proposed additions, which would be more conforming than the existing residence, but would extend that area of nonconformity further west on the property, as you can see on the image on the building plans. The applicants have provided 2 letters of support from neighboring properties at 17 Merrills and 21 Merrills Road, both of the most impacted neighbors to the north and south. 17, 19, and 21 Merrills Road are all 3 nearly identical parcels with very similar constraints. So a question of precedence is certainly reasonable to consider, even with the concerns of the neighboring property owners addressed. The board should be sure that the proposed variances are reasonable candidates which meet the variance standards and address any unique circumstances about the property in the determination if approved. In order to differentiate this application from similar ones that the ZBA might have in the future. The lot coverage variance should also be looked at closely to determine if it is the minimum variance necessary. Given that the proposed additions are over existing improvement, no additional coverage is coming from the additions, rather from the proposed porch and the roof overhang. The ZBA should be careful about granting variances where they can be avoided, especially on smaller lots. But given the existing improvements on the parcel and the limited improvements proposed, which would add to the lot coverage, the board may believe that the applicants meet the variance standards. Other than that, I can answer any questions you might have.
The other properties in the neighborhood, and we've got some letters of support from them, but that could be just their perspective. Looking at the photos that were presented by Member Meering, it seems that the adjacent house, if it was in front of us, would have a lot of the same problems in terms of pyramid.
Absolutely.
They're all on very narrow lots, so these taller second-story houses, if we were to review them, we'd probably find the very same problems we have here. Isn't that fair to say?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
They're nearly identical to each other.
And also in terms of how they fit on their lot, it's amazing, 49 feet,
That's some of the thinnest lots that we have in town.
Tyler, oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm done.
Tyler, I'm looking at the lines that are struck for the pyramid, and on the south side, it looks to be to natural grade, but on the north side, the line is that at natural grade, or is that because that little side there looks to be built up?
It's been like that for so long. My best guess is that probably is what natural grade was, and they just sort of dug out to have that walkway and then put a retaining wall in. So it probably was slightly sloped as it went across the property, and then they just sort of evened it out in that one area and put a retaining wall up to hold it. That's as best as we can guess. There's no real way to get much better than that.
Any other questions?
No, I don't have any questions.
I have one architectural question when Mr. First gets back up. Yeah, if you can answer one.
Let's just see if there's any other callers. Matt, are there any callers?
You have 0 callers. Thank you.
David, would you like to approach the podium?
Do you happen to know what the height internally is from the floor of the addition to the pitch rafter?
probably around 12 feet at the peak.
You want to know from the peak to the first floor?
Yeah, I didn't bring it all with me, so.
I believe it's approximately 12 feet. I don't have the exact number. I have the measurement, the top of the ridge is 23 and a half. And the level 1, the floor would be at 10.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's right.
And then there was no, this requires an NRSP, right, as well as variances? So there's no revegetation or anything?
No, this is just variances.
This is
Oh, just variances,
Just
no.
dimensional variances.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was mistaken by the round around it. Yeah, I know, right? Because I was.
It's a valid
the front is
assumption.
heavily- Yeah, the front was heavily disturbed, so, but no nexus probably to that, or I don't know, there is.
Any other questions?
Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm fine. Thank you.
As is pointed out, the neighboring parcels are very similar. This is not out of character, even what's being proposed here compared to what's existing. And the challenging topography in this area and these narrow lots really leave a homeowner with no real options other than coming to this board for the relief that we're requesting here. And as well, given how far back on the lot this residence was originally constructed, again, it doesn't really leave much room to do any of that. And there's not any other place to put a deck with the layout of the existing house, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Member Mering, would you like to make a motion?
Sure, thank you. Just get that here. Okay, in the matter of Sean Trudeau and Julia Stark Trudeau, 19 Merrills Road, Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-106-02-48. I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing and the record.
Second.
I concur.
I concur.
Thank you all very much. Have a nice
Thank
evening.
you.
Thank you. Have a nice evening. Okay. Okay, we're now on post-hearing decisions. First application before us for decision is April Taylor, size location, 19,062 square feet, 419 East Lake Drive in Montauk, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-6-2-19. Description is to allow an existing 124 square foot wood deck, 28 square foot shed, AC unit, approximately 380 square feet, deck expansion, propane tank, 40 square feet, outdoor shower and storage, and clearing to remain within wetland setbacks, and to allow existing window alterations and a driveway expansion to remain on a parcel of land containing wetlands and beach vegetation. Relief sought is a natural resource special permit pursuant to 255-420 of the East Hampton Town Code, and 7 variances are required. 6 variances of 97, 88, 83, 82.5, 66, and 40 feet from 255-430C of the Town Code are required to allow the wood walk to remain 3 feet, shed 12 feet, AC unit 17 feet, deck 17.5 feet, propane tank 34 feet, and outdoor shower and storage to remain 60 feet from wetlands where 100 is required, and 1 variance from 255-430D is required to allow existing clearing to remain within 50 feet of a wetland and any other relief necessary. Zoning district is A residence AE6 flood zone, AE5 flood zone X, C class type 2. And this goes to Member Berger.
Okay, this was Okay, we'll start with some of the logistics. The hearing date on this was April 16th, 2024. The survey at the time of the hearing was dated 11/23/2022. The agent was John Tarbett. There was a C of O survey that was in the existing conditions memo, which is relevant on this, was dated 11/21/2018. It's a 1,200 square foot house and 272 square foot of decking on the C of O from 2018. This is quite a discussion on this application. There are many variances. The applicant apparently bought this home in 2019, and there are a number of things that were done by the applicant, none of which had been applied for any permits to be done. As a result, we ended up with this application now in front of us, trying to rectify a lot of those ills that were done. This property is very non-conforming. It's pre-existing. Was originally built, I believe, in 1978 or thereabouts. I almost don't know where to begin. This is one of these applications that I've been laboring over since we had the hearing. All these things were done. The woodwalk, the shed, AC, all of these things were done as a result of interior renovations and other renovations of the house, which were also done without permits. They're requesting the approval now to keep several of these structures that were either built or expanded without the permit. The whole property is within jurisdiction of wetlands. There is a pocket wetland on the, I always get the east and west on this angle here for East Lake Drive backwards, but it should be on the west side. It's a pocket wetland to the northern side of the property, and the Lake Montauk on the southern side. Lake Montauk also this is in an H-pod area, and Lake Montauk, as we know, is a statewide area of significance, and the fishing area also designated for it. This property, I've done this two ways in my deliberations. There are many things wrong that were done, and in the hearing, some of these things were done as a result of the thing, and some seem like they are not all that big deal, I guess, to have been done. However, if I view this as a whole, and it was stated by the planner in the application too, this is one of that, when I think about had this come to us in front of this board with these variance requests, prior to them being done and just applying for them, I feel, my decision, that a lot of these things would have been denied or discussed and tried to make better during, subsequent to the hearing. I have trouble with approving some of these things because of the changes. Let's talk about clearing first. There was clearing back in 2018. Back in 2018, the clearing on this property was 7442. The survey that was submitted at the hearing, the clearing was 7,777. At the hearing, there was a lot of discussion about the clearing, and the agent said that prior to coming in for the hearing, that they had worked with the Natural Resources Department to do a revegetation prior. Our record at the hearing was left open in order for the applicant to submit the updated survey, which we did receive on May 20th of 2024. And it does show that the clearing on that, May 7th, 2024, did bring the clearing back down to a number of 6,565. So that's a good thing. However, there were many other things. It's pre-existing now. There were a number of other items that were requested as far as a shed. There was a shed added toward the pocket wetland. This is one of the variances requested is 88 feet for the shed. This was not there in 2018. It's not on the survey. So I'll talk individually. The shed was just not there, and now it's an 88-foot variance that they're requesting to legalize this. Again, it was done without a permit, as was everything else. And there's an AC unit there that was added, 83-foot variance for that, which is also a huge variance. As far as an AC unit, it's still a huge variance. And I believe there are locations for the shed, and they could have been better located as per the planner's testimony at the hearing also. But again, no one asked. The deck that was originally on the property was changed in. The decking was originally 272 square feet on the it's on the survey to 2018, and it was originally 76 feet from the wetland. Now, it was also expanded. The deck is seaward, or toward the tidal wetlands of Lake Montauk. It's on the water side, and it went from a size of 272 feet to 652 square feet. And the wetlands, I guess, changed along over the years between 2018 and today, and it is now 56.5 feet away from the tidal wetlands. So part of that is the deck was increased, not just squared off or rounded off as stated at the hearing. However, it was more than doubled, or more than doubled in size. There was a propane tank on 2018 survey that there were originally two small propane tanks. They were replaced by a larger propane tank, which then had to be moved because of separation from the building itself, from the home itself. And that got moved a little bit further north on the property, and that required a variance of 66 feet. And the next item was an outdoor shower. In 2018, there was on the C of O, there was a legal shower on the northern side of the house, toward the front of the house. That was removed, and a shower and storage shed was put in on the opposite side, on the western side, and closer to the again the tidal wetlands of Lake Montauk. The shower, it was legal in 2018. The shower that existed on the north, that was removed, and now they're requesting a 40-foot variance for this outdoor shower and storage shed attached to it, to legalize that, which is clearly it's a pretty substantial variance there also. And the clearing within 50 feet of the wetlands. we had a discussion on, a couple of other things happened. The original, there was a lot coverage based on the survey from hearing of 2022, and there was a big increase in lot coverage. A lot of that was explained by the change in the driveway, which went from just a dirt driveway to a gravel driveway. That accounted for most of it. Some of the other lot coverage, I believe, was probably the deck accounting for that, even though the number's a little bit different. But there were a number of other bothersome things on this. One maybe not so critical thing. We had a letter of approval from a neighbor. That neighbor, if you look at the application, apparently was no longer the owner. There's a different name on the application for that. There was no DEC permit or notice of non-jurisdiction from the DEC on this application. There is also a float that was in the wetlands that just left there. And that float had, by the time of the hearing, that float had gotten moved and was put out into the water. But on that, that was not permitted either, but the applicant said that will be removed. So regardless of what the outcome of this is, that needs to be removed. And the planning department also recommended a 50-foot buffer and scenic easement on the property. And during the discussion at the hearing, when we had the planner show where that scenic easement would go, it turned out, I guess, the 50-foot easement with 10-foot setback that is required for the easement would have brought it very close to the corner of the house,
The southern
to
end,
the
right?
deck, the southern end,
Right,
yeah, the
right.
southern end of that, and somewhat the shower that's also being requested for a variance. So at the hearing, the planner recommended making that a 40-foot scenic easement and the 10-foot setback, with the 10-foot setback. And they drew it she drew it on the screen, and that was one of the items that was left for the applicant to put onto the new survey. When they did that, we got the new survey. It answered the questions as far as the clearing that had been done, the revegetation. However, they put a 50-foot, it's 24. They put a 50-foot scenic easement in that they're proposing. However, that scenic easement started very well south at the beginning, sort of near the beginning of the walkway, wood walk that's on the property today, and 50 feet down into the wetlands and the high water mark. And I think that needs to be changed. If this application's approved at all, that needs to go back to what was discussed at the hearing with the planner's recommendation. I was trying to look on the survey here for 2024. It's kind of well, if you look at the latest survey that we did get on May 20th of 2024, it shows some distances to the beginning of the scenic easement that they're proposing. And that would have to me, what we discussed at the hearing and with the planner's recommendation, that would have to be moved back about 10 feet from where they have it starting and should actually end kind of where the wood walk ended, which was what the planner had recommended at the hearing. So I am torn on this.
Did you address the wood walk, the 124 square foot?
Well, the wood walk itself, ordinarily, it looked like it was untreated wood. And ordinarily, our board says that is okay for a 4-foot wood walk. And the planner did say that might actually be better in terms of mowing and clearing that walkway. It won't expand any wider. However,
In the scenic
my,
easement.
what?
No, it's in this, I'm just,
So, let-
Yes.
it's in
go
the
ahead,
scenic
John.
easement, yeah.
So ordinarily, I would be okay with the wood walkway, you know, for the reasons given.
Right.
My problem overall is that so much of this and the fact that it was done without any permits, I really think if this had come before this board, as it should have, and that all these things were discussed, that this would have been denied if this is the way this application ended up. So I am leaning toward denying the application as a whole. They also said that there was talk about their septic upgrade. However, there's no application for a septic upgrade. There's nothing in the file about septic upgrade. It was just like a future reference. We got a grant. So I think also if this had come in front of this board, maybe this board would have required, you know, some more mitigation with a septic upgrade as part of this project. So right now, I think, you know, a lot of these things individually, I think they may not be terrible as far as the natural resource special permit standards, although the scenic easement that's proposed, I think also we should ensure that if the 50 foot from the wetland is vegetated and not cleared. Part of the reasoning for the scenic easement also moving up is because of the clearing line goes right down. You see kind of a V shape on the survey that goes right down to where the wood walk starts. And that maybe we should require, if this is approved, that be revegetated also, that clearing, to compensate for it.
You mean in here?
This area
Okay,
here.
yeah, that little V
Kind
there.
of like,
Okay.
yeah, well, I drew on.
Yeah. No, that's what it
Yeah,
is.
there's kind of a blue line that goes across, and then there's a V of the clearing line. And that was also part of the recommendation from the planner. I think some of these variances in general are huge for almost everything. And then in addition to that, so right now, I am at a point where I will deny this entire application, but I am very curious to hear any additional comments or other reasoning from my fellow board members.
Member Johan?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, we can go by item. This whole decision comes down to the easement for me. I'll say that right away. We go through item by item. The deck did more than double its size. There was an issue about work that was done on the house, the windows, although and some of the other improvements. The planner did say that there was very little potential impact, environmental impact to that. Doesn't justify what happened without a permit, but nonetheless, looking at it from an environmental point of view, it was not a problem. The shower and shed, you know, it's a larger structure. It's moved now closer to the lakefront, but it is further from the pocket wetland. There might have been something there for us to consider for approval. The clearing issue, there was the idea that this tank, the gas tank that went over there, did that area have to be cleared? There was discussion of whether it was or wasn't. There's some proposal to revegetate in that area. None of that was very clear to us. The wood walk to the beach was also described as a cultural structure, and as such, possibly was one that we didn't have to address, and I put that aside. The AC, and let's see what else, the lot coverage issues, and the float were all issues that I could deal with if I can get back to talking about how we best protect the environment here. I think that let's see one other item before I get to that. Oh, yeah. I think it's important to say that there was a discussion, as was mentioned by Member Berger, of a potential upgrade in septic, but nothing was presented to us. There was no drawing. There was no application. So that was just a discussion. It's nothing that we can deal with, because if we had something in front of us, we could say this is a possible mitigation or this is a possible improvement. Having a discussion when you come in front of the board about something you might do doesn't help us when we're making a decision. I don't think that there was a talk of a grant and how they were going to move forward to it. They just hadn't yet. That's all well and good. We don't have it in front of us. So I don't think it can be used in any way as a possible mitigation. If they had come back when they had the chance to update, So a lot of these individual things, the other large variances, these are constrained lots. We're down, surrounded by wetlands on two sides. There's going to be some natural problems to do almost any work here. So if you do that, and you have to come in front of the board, you have to come up with something that's legitimate mitigation for us to consider in how we're protecting the environment. That legitimate mitigation for me is to establish an effective and large easement here between the house and the lake, which was very possible. Now, at that hearing, we had the discussions and we had the planner point to a spot on the, not defined, but a spot on the survey where we thought that we could see the line of the easement go. And it was a lot closer to the house than what we have now with the 10-foot setback would have protected a great deal more. The general conversation though is that 40-foot easement, if it started at the wetlands and worked its way back, it would push it back up into the lawn area, and that we would be really doing a sizable job here to protect and create a buffer with on a very low-lying parcel down to the lake. But that did not show up, that line that we discussed did not show up in the new survey that was issued to us. I look at this and I don't like a lot of the things that were done, and they weren't done without permits, and we have to be careful with that. If, however, this applicant had established an effective and large easement, I could approve this. I could approve this application. I could approve it because in the end, it's our job to do the best we can to improve conditions for the environment in situations like this. A lot of quibbles we can go back and forth about why they did and what they did. Had there been a better effort on the easement, this is not a hard thing not as hard a thing to approve as it seems to have been for Member Berger. But I agree that the easement as proposed now is not adequate to mitigate what was being asked for on this thing. I think they had an opportunity. We got another drawing. They did draw in an easement. It's not the one we discussed at the hearing. It's not significant enough for me. I think that if this had moved another 10 or 15 feet up, I'm not going to give them a line. I'm saying they had an opportunity to present it. I think this is not mitigation enough to allow for the various things that were enumerated by Member Berger. And I just mentioned some of them. We can go down them, but all of them are small items on their own. Together, it was mentioned by Member Berger, it's a large list. Give us something that we can look at here that says we've done our best job to protect the environment. I don't think what's been offered right now gives us the opportunity to walk away from here saying we've done our best to protect the environment and to grant an NRSP. So somewhat regretfully, because I think there was an opportunity here, I'm going to have to agree with Member Berger and deny the application. I think that the applicant did not do their job after the hearing. That's the way I look at it. I would have expected a little more aggression here in terms of let's make an offer that shows proper mitigation. The general conversation about the variety of things and even the lot coverage having to do with the driveway and whether or not somebody had parked a boat and did a little extra clearing. We can have a discussion about those small things. The big thing here is how do we protect, the wetlands, and the large wetlands here of the lake, very low lying. So a lot of talk, but I think that without having been granted or been offered a larger and more effective easement, I can't approve this application.
Could I make another comment? We recently denied another application somewhere else in the town. And part of that also, they said that, we're going to get a septic system. But like this one, we had no information on it, no plan, nothing was in the file. So, that was a factor also in that application. And as far as NRSP, these variances are huge. Even if there was no NRSP in the picture, a lot of this, I think, had they come to us up front, would have been denied, if not changed. But anyway.
Member Mering?
Yes. So I'm not going to repeat everything that was said. I am also disappointed that the easement that is proposed to be established is not what I would consider mitigation enough to really protect this property environmentally, and to be adequate mitigation to especially the easement for the expansion of the wood decking that I think came out to like 2.4 times what was existing. But may I ask Vice Chair or Council a question, because we've had some applications where we approve things, but we've made a condition, a bigger easement or something like that, but that doesn't feel like where we're going now. So I just want to understand legally and also see what the Vice Chair, Acting Chair this evening says, because I can think of one application that we did that on not that long ago.
Council, would we be able to make a condition of approval based on a bigger scenic easement? If it's approved?
I'll tell you my concern in that area would be right away is that how do we define it at this meeting?
Right.
Without it being on a drawing, how
That's
do we
why I'm
define
asking.
it?
I'm a little lost
You
there.
make it bigger by 1.5 feet. Does that satisfy us? We need to know exactly what kind of easement we're making a ruling on. That would be my take.
Right.
That's a good point, and that's part of it. I'm trying to recall the other time recently that we did it, because I would also be reluctant to, and member Johan kind of fleshed this out already. The board seemed pretty clear in their directive, and then they came back with something different. So I don't really know. I think it's an option for the board to do it that way, but if it seems so far this discussion is going towards denial, that may just be more appropriate.
Well, I think it gives them an opportunity to come back with a whole new application and address some of these other things.
Right. And I mean, and they do still have the option, once listening to the full discussion by everyone, that if they do think that if there was an option B, an option C in their easement offer, they could also ask the board to reopen the hearing if that was their pleasure to submit a larger easement.
I mean, we left the record open specifically sort of at the suggestion that there was going to be a discussion about easement, re-veg. I mean, we did get this sort of re-veg plan, which I was actually disappointed in, because a lot of the re-veg seems to be vegetation going up the flag strip, if I'm reading this correctly, as opposed to putting that re-veg more into areas that sort of protect the environmental areas around closer to the wetlands. I mean, there is a re-veg up in the corner of the property near the pocket wetland, I understand. But so I was, sort of concerned, or felt that we gave a very good opportunity for the applicant and the council to come back, and it didn't come through. So I'm in the same position as my two fellow board members that have already spoken. And so I don't even think at this point, I mean, I have views about the different variances and things like that, but I sort of feel like it's a little bit binary right now in terms of not enough, quote, mitigation and not appropriate protection is off and on the neighbor's property. And I couldn't remember if we established that that they had an easement on the neighbor's property. And the reason I ask is because I also would worry that if the driveway had to be moved, that would obviously take up, more clearing on the property and things like that. But it's not even really relevant now, but I had forgotten to ask that before. The driveway's off the property, but anyway, so I'm gonna be in the same position right now that I guess I will be denying the whole application because of the lack of mitigation and environmental conditions that don't rise to the standard of the.
I just say from the hearing that when we have approved an increase in an easement, we've had a contour line we could state, or an exact number from a property line. We don't have that here, and so it's hard to be nebulous and give an approval.
Right, like we had I won't go into the details, we had an application where we were able to ask for more revegetation and reduce clearing to a number that had been established, and we had something very specific to work to. You're right, here we don't, I agree that we don't have, we would just be coming up with something of, we just become
Yeah, we had a rough.
I think the burden is on the applicants to suggest mitigation. Yeah, that's what I
Okay.
say. Thank you.
I kind of went about this a little differently in the way I analyzed this application. I actually took each item and said yes or no to it. So I'm going to go through that just for the record. In terms of the wood walk, I would have approved it. It reduces the amount of clearing needed for access and helps maintain a uniform path as stated in the TAM. There is a long history of a wood walkway being there. So the question becomes, since it was built without a building permit, would I have approved it if it came before us? 2018 CO does depict a trail. The planning department is of the opinion that the wood walkway can be considered a coastal structure based on the definition in section 255-120. And since it would be considered a coastal structure, it becomes exempt from wetland setbacks under 255-443, therefore eliminating the need for a variance. That is something, based on that information, that I would have approved. The wood float, the applicant has already agreed to remove it, and since it's being stored in a wetland when not in use, removal can be a condition of approval before the issuance of a permit. I denied the shed and the AC units, so I'm going to deny these requests since there are alternative locations on the property to get them farther away from wetlands, and these are very substantial variances and not the minimum necessary. I would also deny the wood deck. The 2018 C of O describes a 272 square foot open deck, which is now 652 square foot deck, seaward side expansion. Original deck, 76 feet from wetlands. After an illegal expansion and updated wetland delineation, it is now 56.5 feet. So again, I say to myself, if it's before us today, would I have approved it? And the answer to that is no. This is a very constrained property, and these are substantial variances and not the minimum necessary. The question for me is, would I have approved this now? And I think not, since the expansion of the residence's footprint, I think, should be limited. I would approve the propane tanks. The overall wetland setback has increased from what was on the previous CO for the 2 tanks, so it's a minor structure. I don't see any negative impacts from that. They had a shower, they had an outdoor shower in 2000 CO, which was removed. And they put in a new shower and a 5-foot by 8-foot storage unit, a location of an outdoor shower, which is about 75 feet from the wetlands to the west, but closer to the wetland to the south. And we are here for a natural resource special permit. And I don't really think the case was made for how that meets a natural resource special permit standard or variances. This is an HPOD area, so runoff would be an issue. The window alterations, this is after the facts, and since impacts would have already happened during construction, so at this point, no additional adverse impacts are expected. The driveway expansion can continue as long as it is local quartz gravel, since it's within the HPOD as per 255-375. I would deny the variance for 255-430 to allow existing clearing to remain 50 feet of a wetland, and if approved, which it has not been, we should have imposed a 50-foot scenic easement along the southern end of the property. So I'm denying the 5-foot, 8-foot storage and shower structure. I'm denying the additional expansion of the wood deck. And I'm denying the shed and AC unit and feel that the wood float should be removed. So that's where I stand on the application.
Can I just ask Tyler a question? On the original shower that was on the CO, but it was pre-existing, but it was non-conforming to wetlands. I just wanted to remind myself if that was the case. I think it was.
The wetland was at the same
I think it was related to the pocket wetland.
It would be the pocket wetland, yeah. But it was on the C of O, it was legal.
Yes.
Right, I know it was legal, but it was still, correct. I was just curious, but it wasn't conforming to wetland setbacks.
No, there's no
Right,
way.
okay.
Yeah. I don't think anything on the property would be.
Right. So do you want us, should we all do,
I mean,
Should we do
I-
the
when I
individual elements?
analyzed- Well, that's how I looked at it.
Right.
I mean, I took each, like I just noted, and looked at it and said, well, I'd approve this, but not approve that. That's how I approached the application.
Well, like, that's kind of way I
You
ran
kind
it
of
down.
went that way.
And I was back and forth on that. And then, but the bottom line came down to, had they come in front of us, with this application.
Right.
What, I don't think we would have approved it as it is.
No, but
And
we might have
there are so many
approved
things
certain
lacking.
aspects of it.
There's no DEC permit. I mean, as far as conditioning any kind of approval, it would have to be conditioned on the DEC permit. I would condition it on a septic system. Why not?
And also, if we.
And the float is
if we-
not only, it's not permitted, period.
No, I said removal of
In the
it.
water.
It's got to be,
Including in
well,
the
they
water.
agreed to remove it.
They said they would remove it, yes.
Now,
And
counsel,
that would
my
have to be-
question is, we discussed the scenic easement at great length. Record left open for them to come back to us. They didn't come back to us when we made it clear how we felt. Why wouldn't we be able to state if we do let certain things get approved, establish what we wanted as a scenic easement?
We probably could say that.
I mean, could
I don't
we?
know if that's enough.
Well, it gets to the point of what Member Johan was saying. It's like,
Right.
what would we establish? Like, would we have, what would be, I mean, could we take a recommendation from the planning department? Is it us coming?
We
I
did
don't,
talk about it with the
Yeah.
planner at the hearing, but 50 foot was not that 50 feet. It wasn't going into the water. There was a description saying that the wood, it would sort of end at the wood deck. Where the wood deck ends.
So three of
50
you have
feet from
denied
there.
it in its
50
entirety. How would you, based on mitigation, if the adequate revegetation was offered, what would what are you asking for?
I'm asking for a new application.
I mean,
The clearing within 50 feet of the wetland, that's in this picture too.
I mean, I can go through some of the individual elements and I said I wouldn't go forward because the easement wasn't there, but if we should go, and you sort of, Member Berger, sort of started going that way, so I would approve the wood walk.
Yeah, there are
For the
certain
same,
things
the same reason. Obviously, it would be in the scenic easement, but that's, we have pathways to beaches that go through scenic easements and all kinds of things. And on the same basis that Vice Chair Savarese noted, based on what the planning department said, that it's been there, the path has been there a long time. It creates a, sort of funnels you through all the vegetation. What else would I have, was I going to approve? The AC, I think the AC in the shed could have been in a better position. So those I would be denying. And the propane tank, because the what was discussed in terms of it needed to be moved from the house, I'm okay with that. I actually had a little bit of a different view on the shower. Only because,
So meaning you would approve it?
well, I mean, again, it's a little bit, is dependent on more protection towards the shoreline. My thinking actually came from the fact that this board just approved an application to the adjacent property. And that house, I mean, if you think about outdoor showers, I do think about where they should be sited for privacy. And I do believe, but I don't know if that can be, so part of me was going to.
Well, it is, I mean, the location of the outdoor shower is about 75 feet from the wetland to the west, but it's closer to the top
Right, 60
wetland to the
feet.
south.
60 feet. And I did, even though it was legal, the other shower was still fairly non-conforming to wetlands. So that was tipping me towards approving this shower. but it sounds like everyone else wants to deny it.
So are we going through each, whether we approve or deny, or do you want to stick with
deck-
your?
the deck for me-
Discussion is making me more secure in that decision.
I'll tell you, I think that, in this case, where's the mitigation? And I'm going to start with that. And so any of these things that I would lean towards approving, I would have to come back and say, but where's the mitigation to justify it? And if we look at this as a whole, my decision was really based on, had they given us the mitigation, we could have gone down that list and said, this is still a bridge too far, or this is fine for us. But I think once you go down the whole thing and you look at this part, you look at the parcel and you look at the project and you look at the opportunity they had, I don't see that there's anything for me to grab onto. I can say, well, this justifies a certain portion of the project. So I'm going to stay with my decision to deny the entire application.
And Member Berger, you are too, and I'm going to stay with my split decision. And Member Mary?
I'm willing to approve the propane tank and the wood walkway. And I was sort of cuspy on the shower, but again, it's the wood deck and the shower being the things that were done closest to the tidal wetlands, the absence of appropriate mitigation. So I am not approving those, given what's been presented to us in terms of easement or protection or revegetation by the applicant. Does that make sense?
So I think,
Sorry, Chairman.
I think we need to table this till Chairman Deline comes back next week and we readdress this application.
That's right.
Is that legal?
We'll need to wait. Yeah, we have to wait. We need to wait
Just wait.
for another vote to
Well,
see
who
if
knew?
any of the,
Talk, nobody knows.
what?
Nobody knows, Member Berger, until we discuss it.
I know.
But go ahead, what are you saying?
Well, right now, even if Jane and Denise would approve those portions of the application, they're not going to carry because it would be a 2-2.
Right, it would be a 2-2.
split. So at the very least, we need to, for the benefit of the applicant, find out if
Yes.
Roy agrees with any of those items
Yes.
or agrees in any other way.
So we can hear his comments next week.
Yes.
Okay. And I'll leave my conditions of approval list. Necessary.
Okay. Next is Mary Elena and Dominic Marinelli, 257 Westlake Drive in Montauk. The applicant is Mary Elena and Dominic Marinelli. Size location, 39,978.48 square feet total, 257 Westlake Drive, Montauk Beach Development Corp., subdivision 7, central portion of Westlake residential section, block 163, lots 3 and 4. Tax map number 300-12-3-23. Description is to remove 2 sheds, hot tub, gravel area, 1,125 square feet of patio, and existing fencing to allow approximately 1,740 square feet or existing patio with pavers, walkway, outdoor kitchen, and on patio. An outdoor shower to remain and to construct a new approximately 532 square foot swimming pool and spa, pool fencing, 190 square foot sheds, pools, houses without plumbing, with approximately 695 square foot roof overhang and approximately 659 square foot swimming pool patio, relocated driveway, relocated propane tank and upgraded sanitary system, and approximately 5,550 square foot revegetation on a parcel of land within setbacks and jurisdiction of freshwater wetlands. Relief sought is a natural resource special permit pursuant to 255-420 of the East Hampton Town, and 3 variances are required for this application. Variances of approximately 77, 74, and 44 feet are required from 255-430 of the Town Code to allow proposed fencing to be located 23 feet walkways 26 feet, and existing patio with outdoor kitchen 66 feet from freshwater wetlands where 100-foot setbacks are required, and any other relief necessary. Zoning district is B residence, Zone X flood zone. Secret class is a type 2. Member Johann?
Marinelli. The hearing for Marinelli was held on May 14th, 2024. I was not present at the hearing. I did review the video of it, obviously the LTV video of it, and all the documentation, including the documentation that came in later. It had been scheduled to me, my field report, and so I'm going first here on the my opinion about the particular project. The hearing was May 14th, 2024. The survey we started working from was dated January 8th, 2024. We received that survey on January 16th, 2024. The applicant was represented by Denise Schoen and Katie Osecki. We received 2 documents from East End Land Planning on January 16th, 2024 that were dated January 9th, 2024. One was a revegetation plan, and the second was a dry pool house drawing. Dry being a pool house here, that they were using that term. There will be no plumbing in the area, and that became an issue during the hearing. We also received a proposed sanitary system design plan on January 11th, 2024. Much of the discussion that night centered on the amount of work that was done at the site without the benefit of building permits or environmental review. The expanded driveway on the site had grown by approximately 8 feet in width in the direction of the wetlands to the north. 2 sheds, a hot tub, a large patio, and some perimeter fencing had also been added, along with pavers, walkways, an outdoor kitchen on a patio, and an outdoor shower. Additionally, an extended culvert was installed at a swale by the roadside at Westlake Drive that required the filling and disturbance of wetland at that location. And although an environmental review should have taken place and an engineering report have been filed with the town, that part of the work, and that's of concern to us, that part of the work that has been conducted on this parcel does not fall under our purview, and so is not being considered as part of this application. On May 29th, we received a follow-up letter from East End Land Planning that sought to answer some of the concerns raised by the board on May 14th hearing and to offer additional mitigation for the project. The applicant's original offer to revegetate 5,550 square feet of overcleared land was increased by 3,872 square feet to a total of 9,422, which reduced the clearing on the lot to exactly the allowable 19,994 square feet. An additional 172 square feet was reduced from the illegally installed patio area to bring the total proposed reduction of patio by 1,297 square feet down to approximately 1,568 square feet. They now propose to eliminate an outdoor shower that was proposed to be set alongside an accessory structure and to remove the roofed area proposed between the 2 dry pool houses, which will also reduce building coverage. It is important to note that many of the proposed mitigation offers It's important to note that many of the proposed mitigation offers are to reduce improvements that were done more recently by the current owner. The proposed pool and pool house do not require variances and are to be located in an already cleared area on an almost 1 acre plot. The new IA system would be located in a position that is probably the most practical spot on the property and will be partially under the relocated driveway. The fence will be moved inland from its current position. These are all proposals in the May 29th letter. The driveway is to be reduced in size and moved to the south further from the wetlands. The hot tub is to be removed from the application. In the end, the clearing will be brought back into compliance with the 9,422 square foot of proposed revegetation. And a modern IA system will replace a conventional system. These are their 2 major forms of mitigation for this project. The givebacks are removing the 2 existing sheds and gravel area and the reduction of the extensive patios I do not consider to be direct mitigation. They were never approved to be constructed in the first place, and so givebacks in that area are only a reduction of something that should not have been put in place to begin with. But given that an extensive buffer is to be added to the north and east of the adjacent wetlands and an IA system which is not required for this project will be installed, and that the pool and pool houses do not require variances and are located on previously cleared land, I think this application approach as being one that I consider for approval. I can consider for approval. Obviously, if it was to be approved, all the planting plans and re-veg plans will have to be approved by environmental planners. I don't like anything about what's happened on this parcel. The work that was done, the extensive clearing, the culvert being installed without town approval. I think that this is one that goes off like a light when you're there, to think that someone comes, ignores the rules in the town, does this considerable amount of work, and then pleads ignorance to what the town might require on any lot, not only one as sensitive as this. However, in the end, I think it's our job to see if we can improve any parcel to its maximum. Are we improving it? Are we bettering an opportunity for the environment to have a little more insulation from any activity that's happening around it? In terms of the code, when I look through, if I look at 255-8-50 and ask myself whether the grant of the variance will cause an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood, I say no. Whether the benefit sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than area variance, no. And whether the requested area variance is substantial, whether the grant of the variance will have an adverse impact or physical environment conditions, I think that's been offset by the very large buffer that's being offered in terms of revegetation, which brings this house right down into compliance. Under 255-5-51 of the town code, that in order to be eligible for the issuance of an NRSP, does the preservation of natural resources, have we done the maximum in that area? And are they all looking up, and that no natural resource feature or system design in 255-4-12 will be diminished? I say that we've done the best here. I mean, in this case, we're doing what can be done to satisfy those two again. Under step 2 here, under point 2, alternate designs entailing smaller buildings or structures. Well, I think coming back to us with the potential for us to eliminate some of what was proposed in some of their project, and again, what was offered for mitigation. I think that the septic, of it being in the Lake Montauk area, was important to me. Under compatibility, does it demonstrate general standards 255-540 of the town code, specifically compatibility? The site proposed is uses the use of the site of the proposed use is a suitable one. I think that the answer is yes. And environmental protection, this is a project that they went and put a large footprint on, and they did it without approval. And I'm bothered by it. I'm going to be honest about it. I'm very bothered by it. But I do think in the end, what we have to ask ourselves is the effort made by the applicant in some way going to help us protect the wetlands that are most sensitive here, and to do something to help us protect the lake. I think that the buffer that has been offered in revegetation, and I think that the IA system is definitely an improvement, and it's something being on Westlake Drive as it is, that are both two improvements that allow me to approve this application. I will say, though, that I've been on the board for a few years, and it's a site when you go to and think that people think that they can just come into this town and do whatever they want on a parcel without addressing it in any way. It was a bit shocking. However, I've already stated why I'm going to approve it. And at this point, Ms. Vice Chairman, I'm going to approve the project.
Member Berger?
Well, I too was disturbed by this whole scenario that occurred on this application. But I do agree with my fellow board member that due to the letter that we received on May 29, 2024, with additional mitigation and addressing some concerns that we had about, like things with the shower being proposed in that area. I think we were all concerned about water with the pool house and the swimming pool and all that. but they removed the shower from the project. They are also removing the stone parking on the north side that encroached on the wetland and certainly into it. And the additional revegetation also was a major factor for me. I believe that despite the fact that there is a lot of structures on this property and hard structures, I do believe that with that mitigation and the IA system, removing the the parking area on the north to protect should go back to protect the wetland, the revegetation of 9,422 feet, bringing it back to the maximum that's allowed for this property. This property is just under an acre. We had a protocol from Adam Miller Group and other things, descriptions about the, one thing I want to make a comment on is on page 5, where they have the neighborhood description and call it pools. All they did was list a bunch of other locations on Westlake Drive, nothing considering whether those required variances or NRSPs or anything else. So I found that to be not valuable information at all. And I was very disturbed by the initial hearing. I did not think that, well, I don't understand the whole thing with the culvert, how that happened. It's still unclear to me whether there was prior permission given or not, but that's all water under the bridge, or so to speak.
Pun intended.
Yeah, sort of. But anyway, so I do agree with member Johan that based on the additional mitigation and the factors that we received, the removal of the roof area, I'm still a little bothered about the accessory structures. They are NRSP, are NRSP only, however, I think with the additional dry wells that I think they added to this project too, that will help mitigate some other runoff, even though those are hardened surfaces. I don't know if we could condition, so I'm looking to approve the application ultimately. I don't know if we can condition something on the accessory structure that between the two pool houses, that never become covered structure or some other kind of space. I don't know if that's necessary, but I do think that with the additional mitigation that it does meet the NRSP standards. They're moving and part of the fencing, it will be coming out, because right now they had deer fencing around 3 sides of their property. And they are removing the fencing and moving the pool house. It's still more fencing than I personally would like, but I think it will also, as far as NRSP in the back of the property, allow more of the access for wildlife. And so I too am approving this.
Member Mering?
Yes, thank you. So given that there's both variances and an NRSP at stake here, the two main questions regarding the things that we're being asked to approve are, is the mitigation being proposed sufficient or more than sufficient to address the NRSP request for additional, especially for the pool and I'm going to call it the pool complex, the pool houses, the patio and pool, and also relative to the variances. And would, as we've talked about before, would I have approved the variances had they come before us seeking proper review and approval? So I'm going to work through both of those things. I also just want to give a couple stats that I've taken into account in my head. So I'm looking at the coverages on the property, both the building coverage and the total coverage, and I've compared where they were as of 6/11/2018, which was that survey prior to the establishment of the, I want to call them the illegal structures, and then where we are now, or will be now, based on the May 2024 survey. And so those two coverages, both one, the building coverage increases 38% net, and the total coverage is increasing 76.9% all in, which is, those are significant and substantial increases. On the other side, I note that both of those new coverage ratios are still 42% below max allowable. So I just wanted to put that there as context, because I took that into account. I too am pleased with the increased proposal for revegetation that they came in with following the public hearing, which takes the property back just to maximum clearing conformance, which is a good thing. And I do think the septic system is significant mitigation as well. I agree with my fellow board members also that removing structures that were built without the benefit of approvals of variances or NRSPs or review is not mitigation. So I'm not really taking that into account. I'm going to break down the elements. So I'm actually going to start with the pool complex because it doesn't require variances. And given what I said, I do believe that there's enough mitigation and it doesn't need variances. It's just outside of needing a wetland variance, but it's out of needing it, a wetland setback variance. So I am going to approve that whole, the pool, the spa, the two pool houses dry, they've taken out the shower, the roofless patio in between, and I guess the overhangs. I do want to notice that when I looked at the document that was submitted post the hearing where they showed the two pool houses, this is a small thing, but one of them is, I think, 196 square feet, and the other is 204 square feet. And we can't be over. And Tyler, remind us, do pool houses get measured to the outside cladding or the inside? I think they get measured to the outside, right?
The outside, but I'm not 100% certain.
Right. So I want to be really clear that I would not be comfortable having someone come back, oh, builder's error. We're over those 200, the 200 square foot maximum. So I just want to be really clear on that. And even 204 square feet should be adjusted to be compliant. So that's where I am on the pool. With respect to the kind of little paver walkway that needs a variance, I'm going to approve that. I'm going to approve the variance for the fencing. Now, when it comes to what is remaining of the patio, the paver patio area and the kitchen, that still needs, I know they removed more patio, as I sorry.
How much, is that the 1,125 square feet of patio? Am I right about that, which is closest to the wetland?
I wrote it down.
Yeah, that can't be.
And I think now,
That's what they're taking.
Tyler, I think I checked this, the part of the patio that's closest to the wetland is 70 feet from the wetland now, and so now requires a 30-foot variance. Is that correct?
So, I can double check the numbers right now.
Right. But what I am going to say, even as you check that, is I'm going to deny that variance. And my reason is per one of the standards, and it was said at the public hearing, the planning department noted it, there are other positions for outdoor living space, decking, patio, that it could have been structured without needing a variance. So I believe that had this come before us pre being installed, I would have likely said no to a wetland setback variance for this patio. So I'm going to deny that variance, but I'm basically approving, I believe, everything else.
Which variance are you talking about for the patio?
It's roughly 72 feet away.
Sorry?
72 feet.
right.
That's
So,
the patio that has the kitchen on it?
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
it's that part that sticks out that has the
Right.
kitchen on it. That is, I think, the closest.
This one.
That's
yeah.
what's requiring. And that I could have been redesigned, and I don't believe I would have approved this had it come before it was installed. So I know that they're removing a lot of the other patio, but that's not mitigation. That was their own doing and own creation. So approving the pool, the other variances, denying. We had a lot of some conversation about this at the hearing. I do believe that the arborvitae that are off the property and onto the area next to the property that has wetlands, I do believe they should be removed. I know your theory that the deer will take care of it. I just can't, I mean, they shouldn't remain, to me, in a natural area. So I would like to see those removed. I think that's.
Can I make a comment? The patio you're talking about, on the new survey we got May 30th, it shows 80 feet from the wetland. They increased it from 1125 to 1297.
Yes,
And
but
the line to the wetland says 80.5 feet.
That's to the
Sorry,
kitchen itself.
What?
That's to the kitchen itself.
That's to the kitchen.
that's for the kitchen, not the
The
patio.
patio's a little bit closer.
Okay. Where's the patio around it? Just
You
this
you can
little-
see there's like the dotted line.
Yeah, but that's part of the 1297 they're taking out, isn't it? The dotted line? That's what I took that to be. That's where they added another 125 feet for the
Yeah.
172 feet.
172 feet.
172 feet.
So,
Dotted
I mean, I
line
had
is what's
double
coming
checked.
out.
I had double checked this with Tyler, that the actual, because I'm looking at
That's essentially what's remaining.
I'm sorry, what?
The green is essentially what's remaining.
What green?
Can
You
you,
just
I
put
just
it
put it
up
up on the screen.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
That's what's remaining.
Okay, so to the corner of that green, what is the setback to the wetland?
That's roughly 72 feet.
Okay, that's what I was saying, yeah.
And that doesn't
So it's a
show
30,
on the
the 28 foot.
It is. That's the dotted line on the survey, dashed line.
But the wetland setback that's noted on the survey is not to the dotted line, it's to the kitchen itself.
Right.
That's where I think it's a little confusing. Anyway, but whether it's one or the other, I'm denying that variance.
Oh, okay.
And can I make another comment on the pool house? I'm sorry.
Sure.
On the diagram they gave us for it, they both show us 195 feet
Okay.
on the depth.
I was looking at
On May
something, I was,
30th, 2024.
I was looking at, I think I was looking at it online, but maybe,
This came in with the
no,
resubmission.
I thought that's what I
afterwards.
was looking at.
Yeah, no, it
Okay.
says 195, that says 195.
Oh, okay.
Just-
Then it has been corrected. Okay.
My time.
That's right.
I initially felt that this was a poor candidate for approval. But I think after the submission of May 29, 2024 from East End Land Planning, I think the amended changes, which have already been discussed, for me, was enough mitigation offered to offset the improvements they've already made. I think there's been an effort I know there were violations here, and none of us like to see this come back, but I also feel there was an effort on the part of the applicants to correct the violations with regard to the environmental directives. I do, and I am going to approve this application, but I do feel, and this was suggested in the TAM, that an application should be submitted to the DEC and permits in place prior to the issuance of a building permit. And I say that because the TAM states that since the wetlands on this property are extensive with poorly draining soils throughout the area and changes to hydrology have the potential to impact properties beyond the boundaries of the subject parcel. So I will approve this, but based on the fact that that be a condition of approval. I think the applicants should be applauded because they are trying to make a more compliant application, which I do feel now meets the standards for an NRSP and variances.
We made it confusing enough?
I'm okay. As long as, let me open the TAM.
I agree with the vice chair about that I was gonna wait till the end to see where we were, but it was that comment in the TAM about the DEC permits. It said the board should require applications submitted to the New York State DEC to get permits in place related to the culverting and fill of the wetlands in the right of way as a condition of building permit. And I agree with that as well.
Wait, that's in the TAM,
That is in the TAM.
not in
In the TAM.
in the conditions, it's more general, it just says the Article 24 freshwater wetland permit.
Yeah, that would be more specific.
But if you want me to use the language in the TAM about the culvert specifically I'll put it in there. And then everything else is the same. Right, all the other conditions from the TAM. Anything else?
I think that's all. I just lost my agenda. Somehow, it's in my papers somewhere.
I have a copy,
Funny
but
you say that, I lost mine too.
Is the pool and everything, that's going to be staked properly on the survey, or do we have to make that a condition? Again, no,
my goodness,
it's so
really?
close.
Usually a building permit thing, they have to do that. They usually have to do that for a building permit.
Oh, that one of those rules.
I'll say that, but I know Leeton, okay, good.
I don't know if legally.
Okay, so we ready to move on?
I believe so.
No, I did
Can I
not.
ask one other condition? With NRSPs, we often do a condition of no lawn, no sod. No, I mean, obviously, there's still a fair amount of lawn on this property, so I don't know how to think about that, because we often do that as a condition of an
That's what I
NRSP.
just did. All right, the rest is,
A rescuer. Look at this.
Yes.
that's my girl.
Oh, you didn't bring me one?
Thank you.
Yeah. Two,
Okay.
I wanted two.
Okay.
wait, did you guys hear though, Jane was just asking for an additional condition about no lawn, no sod, which we often include for NRSPs, but here there is,
There is a lot of lawn already.
Early to that?
yes,
What?
please.
So generally speaking, we only require that in areas where there's like dune vegetation or things like that,
Okay.
where fertilization is a bigger issue.
As opposed to being your wetlands.
Right, exactly.
Okay, thank you.
That's just generally speaking, that's when that condition will pop in, is like dune vegetation areas.
Okay, thank you, Tyler.
Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you, Tyler.
And in condition number 3, you'll just remove shower. Right?
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, we ready? Other decisions, Andrew Mincer, 67 Leeton Road, Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-131-3-16.1. Correction to determination.
Sorry, I wasn't listening. Here, I actually can give you.
This is on Mincer.
Yep. I typed it during the public hearing.
Oh, okay, very good. So this is a resolution amending here, Jane, would you
Yeah.
like to cover this?
Sure.
I just memorialized what we had already discussed, which is that this is just the change to amend the language of the condition of the scenic easement to have the 10 feet go from the walkway instead of the residence.
From the walkway, sorry, but allowing for 10-foot setback from the stone walkway,
Yes.
not from the residence.
Yes.
That's the change we're
Yes.
making?
Yep.
Okay. So I don't need to go through this whole thing? what the
Nope, only if you
application was.
want to. I just wanted to say.
So in the matter of Andrew Mincer, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-131-03-16.1, I am making a motion to adopt the resolution, the determination as amended.
Second.
I'll concur.
It wasn't if you were done.
Yes, it's so.
The minutes approval.
Yes, they looked they did look good. When was last week?
July
Yes, I
16th.
make a motion to approve the minutes for the East Hampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals.
Approval. Zoning Board of Approvals.
For Tuesday, July 16th, 2024.
Second.
Concur.
Concur.
What are you going to say?
Okay, we're on to resolutions. The first one is mine, Corey Manson, 28 16th Street in Springs, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-78-2-4.2. This was to allow a hot tub and associated decking to remain within side yard setbacks. This was a 4-1 decision with member Maring dissenting. I am going to make a motion that we
Oh, Manson, I'm sorry.
approve the determination as written.
I'll second it.
Concur.
Concur.
Okay. The next one is Kenneth and Heather Dodge, 326 Kings Point Road, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-24-4-7. This is also in my area. This was, let me go right to the approval sheet. Description of work approved. I believe this was yes, it was a unanimous decision to approve. To remove existing brick trellis, decking and stairs, and to construct 1599 square foot of first and second story additions, a 70 square foot entry porch, 766 square feet of decking, and a covered porch, relocated AC units and associated structures on a parcel of land containing tidal wetlands. And it was a 5-0 unanimous approval. I make a motion to approve the determination as written.
A second.
Concur.
I concur.
Next is Sunshine Dunes LLC, 2016 to 2020, 2024 Montauk Highway. Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-130-2-8.2, 8.3, and 8.4. Member Marion?
Yes, thank you. We made this decision not too long ago. As you'll all remember, this was the merging of 3 separate lots that totaled about 7.34 acres. About 4.6 of those acres was buildable. It was to construct a 10,503 square foot house and associated decking. Much of the decking was fairly consolidated and compact because a lot of it was on the roof. And we felt that with the construction protocol, the thought that went around minimizing disturbance overall, which I think will total a little over 20,000 square feet. This was a unanimous 5-0 approval when we went through a number of conditions for the project. So I would like to make a motion in the matter of Sunshine Dunes. I don't have to read the tax map again, do I? You
No,
know what I
that's
mean.
okay.
In the matter of Sunshine Dunes, I move to approve the determination as written.
Second.
I concur.
I concur.
Okay, next is 180 SB LLC, 180 Springy Banks Road, East Hampton, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-74-5-30.5. The project description was to construct a 112 square foot deck extension, 26.6 feet from the side yard lot line where 35 is required. 72 square feet of the deck is within the setback. This was,
Cheers.
yeah, and I'm doing it for him. This was a unanimous approval, I think, yes.
Yeah.
And I am making a motion to approve the determination as written.
Second. Nope. I concur.
Concur.
Okay, the next is the appeal of the building inspector's determination. Jeffrey Bragman, White Sands Motel Holding Company, by Bernard Keeback, 22 Shore Road, Amagansett, New York, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-131-8-7. Member Mering recused herself. The purpose of the application was an appeal of the building inspector's determination pursuant to 102-8 of the Town Code. The relief or approval sought was appeal of the issuance of building permit number 75497, dated January 18th, 2024, on the basis that the residence, as approved, does not meet FEMA construction regulations and the residential code of New York State. The disposition of the application was, for the reasons set forth herein, the board makes the following determination with respect to the application, and this was unanimous. Member Johan was absent when the public hearing was held, but he was able to view the proceedings and the record in its entirety. The appellant's request to challenge the January 18th, 2024 issuance of a building permit 75497 was hereby denied. I make a motion to accept this appeal as written.
I concur.
And I'm recused.
Okay, next is, believe this was a modification. Stewart, 56, 3 Mile Harbor Drive, East Hampton, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-150-5-10.2. The board, the relief granted was 4 variances. The reasons supporting them, this was to modify the determination and add and approve an additional variance that should have been included in the original approval to allow the swimming pool to be located 18.8 feet from the eastern property line where 20 is required. And this was a unanimous approval, 5-0 to approve. I make a motion to accept the resolution amending determination as written.
Second it.
Concur.
SEAAALC, 230 Old Montauk Highway, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-87-3-9. Which one of you? Is that
me?
yours,
But
ma'am?
I've got to be honest, I don't remember what the vote was on that. I don't have.
I'll pull it.
I think it was a 5-0.
I
think it has to be.
I wasn't sure if you voted.
On C, I
On C,
thought I
on
might have,
230.
did I dissent? I didn't see somehow I didn't see the determination. Did we get it?
This was about the
These on Thursday.
yeah, to
Oh, I
change,
missed it from Thursday.
to change from a slab foundation as approved to a full basement foundation.
So,
I mean,
I think it was unanimous, but I just don't want to.
I guess they did. I know.
I have it.
This was, they did a dugout
Okay.
basement. from
doesn't
slab.
it
Yeah, I
have to
did
be
it.
unanimous?
It was unanimous.
Okay, so it was a unanimous vote.
So she did.
Then I'd like to make a motion that in SEAAA LLC 230 Old Montauk Highway, Montauk, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-87-3-9 to accept the determination as written.
Second.
Concur.
Concur.
Next is Gregory, 15 Shore Road, Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-131-6-16. This was a modification in Member Mering's area.
Right, this was to approve a second shower on the upper level. I guess there was some question if it met pyramid or not. I think it was measured that it did meet the pyramid, and it was already built, although it had not been part of the original application and determination that this board had approved a number of years ago. But it was we were unanimous in approving the as-built second shower. I don't have that. So I'm going to make, can I just have the tax map number? Sorry. So in the matter of Gregory, 15 Shore Road, Amagansett, Suffolk County Tax Map 300-131-6-16, I make a motion to approve the determination.
Second.
Concur.
I concur.
Member Johan, would you like to make a motion? to
Sure,
adjourn?
thank you, Vice Chair. I'd like to make a motion to close the East Hampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals hearing and work session for July 23rd, 2024 at 9:13 PM.
Second?
Concur.
Concur.